Hello, cheeseheads, and welcome to the latest instalment of Seb's Sunday Transfer Talk. And thank you for joining me again. Now, anyone who follows Tottenham Hotspur will know they never fail to surprise you. I had this show all planned out, ready to talk about moves for a new centre-back, identifying players who have been lined up in a striker role, and bringing you a new name in our hunt for a right wing-back. I was also going to look at possible outgoings as Fabio Paratici and Antonio Conte look to make room in their squad for the forthcoming season. I will still be doing that. However, as I finished preparing the show, news came out from a number of outlets this weekend that Spurs are about to make their third signing of the window with a £51 million plus purchase of Everton and Brazil forward Richarlison. Now, it is our understanding that this is a move that Spurs are making and that they were chasing both Richarlison and his fellow countryman Gabriel Jesus. But with Spurs sporting director Fabio Paratici known for negotiating a number of transfers before agreeing the best possible deal for his team, the Athletic report there is a good chance of the move for Richarlison happening this summer. It appears the deal for Gabriel Jesus has fallen away following his demand for game time. Now, what stands out most about Richarlison and this possible deal is his versatility across the attacking positions, able to play on the left or on the right, or through the middle. In his 28 league starts last season, Richarlison started 6 times on the left and 22 times through the middle, 3 of which were in this number 10 role. For an Everton side that averaged just 8.5 key passes per game, for Richarlison to have netted 10 league goals is an impressive feat, while an additional 5 assists means he is an appealing option for Fabio Paratici. As all Spurs fans know, we have rather muddled through numerous campaigns with Harry Kane leading the front line, but without the quality options in reserve for the most part. Vincent Janssen, Fernando Llorente, Carlos Vinicius have all tried and failed, but it is Richarlison's flexibility in attack which means he has been identified as the better fit. Last season, he averaged 1.4 dribbles and 1 key pass per 90 minutes, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot. But if you think that he was playing for an Everton team with the lowest possession in the Premier League, just 39.1%, so he really did make the most of his time on the ball. Off the ball, he works tirelessly for the good of the team. He chipped in with 1.4 tackles per 90 for Everton last season. By comparison, Dejan Kulusevski, who I think a lot of us consider to be decent at getting back and helping his team, he made 1.3 tackles per 90, and Son and Kane averaged 0.4. So personally, I think Richarlison would be a very good fit for Spurs. My concern, if there is one, is that other teams actually come in for him now that it's been made. People have been made aware that he is available. Remember, it was only last summer, before Barcelona's financial meltdown, that they had a bid turned down for him. But Spurs' interest is concrete. There are rumours as well of other players being offered to go to Everton, notably Steven Bergwijn and Harry Winks heading the other way. Certainly one to keep an eye on. Now, as most of you will know, it was widely reported this week that Antonio Conte's primary centre-back target, Alessandro Bestoni, has informed Inter Milan that he intends to stay at the Italian club and not seek a move to Spurs. Tottenham have been willing to pay around £54 million to secure the 23-year-old signature. However, Bestoni could actually be forced into a move despite saying he doesn't want to go, as Inter sporting director is reported to have flown to London this weekend with the intention of offloading players as they look to make up a €60 million debt in their finances that reportedly needs to be paid back before the end of this month. As well as that, reports in Italy from Calcio Mercato have said this week that Spurs intend to go back with an offer of £26 million and Davinson Sanchez to Inter Milan. However, here at the Cheese Room, we see no real evidence of that deal, and one which would obviously represent a significant loss on the £42 million that Spurs paid out some time ago now for their Colombian international. One player that Spurs would be willing to let leave is forgotten man Japhet Tanganga. Now, according to Sport Italia journalist Gianluigi Longari, Tanganga has 3 admirers in Serie A who are all ready to test the resolve of Daniel Levy. Tanganga faces an uncertain future at Tottenham, despite having a contract that lasts until 2025. At the age of 23, perhaps a little older than some of us consider him to be, still only managed 43 senior appearances for the club and obviously suffered a season-ending injury midway through last campaign. Compare this to Bestoni, also 23, who has 150 senior appearances to his name, as well as 14 caps for Italy. And perhaps you can see why Tanganga has fallen down the pecking order at Spurs, and Spurs are identifying that centre-back position as a priority. Tanganga was actually attracting interest from Premier League and Italian clubs looking for a loan during the January transfer window before his injury, and has now become the subject of rumours again. According to Longari, who is a respected journalist in Italy, there are 3 clubs who could take Tanganga to Serie A: AC Milan, Napoli and Inter Milan themselves. Does this make a swap deal for Bestoni involving Tanganga and Sanchez, more likely? I am not so sure. I think that the key thing to remember here is that Bestoni himself and Bestoni's agent have made public comments about him wanting to stay at Inter Milan, and the money that Spurs are offering to Inter isn't the issue here. Any stories involving cash plus player swaps, etc., on this occasion actually don't make a lot of sense. I may be proven wrong, but I think this one is dead, and in all likelihood, Fabio Paratici has already moved on to different targets. One of whom, and probably top of the list now, is Pau Torres. Villarreal centre-back linked this week in British tabloid media with a move, and again a swap deal with La Liga club involving Giovanni Lo Celso, who of course spent the second half of last season on loan there. However, it is important to note the timing of this story, which broke little over an hour after the comments from Bastoni's agent. So in my opinion, this could well be a case of the media simply moving on to Spurs' next known target following the comments from Bastoni's agents. Obviously, we know Spurs were in for Torres last summer when he very publicly opted to stay at Villarreal for Champions League football. It's also worth noting that little over a week ago, Torres himself told Spanish publication AS that the only offer he had that was in for him was actually a contract extension from Villarreal, and that was something that he was considering. So no offer from any club. He's also obviously been linked with Manchester United, but as of the beginning of this week, no offer from any club other than the offer to extend his contract from Villarreal. Interesting then that the players who appear to be Tottenham's 2 main targets to fill that left-sided centre-back role both appear to be happy to stay at their clubs. Other name on Paratici's list for that centre-back role is obviously Josko Gvardiol of RB Leipzig, who has also said he's happy to stay where he is. And the next name that Tottenham are being linked with is Gleison Bremer. Now, Gleison Bremer of Torino, he is a fantastic footballer. And as we mentioned last week, he has just won Serie A Defender of the Year, like a certain Cuti Romero before him. And as per FB Ref, now, I'm not massively on stats. You know, I tried to show a little bit of statistical analysis as we did with Richarlison, as we did last week with Perisic. But when you look at this kid, his stats are just off the chart. So if we look here, this is from FB Ref. Bremer has ranked in the 99th percentile for aerial duels won. So 99th percentile, I'm sure you know this, but he's in the top 1%. Top 1% or 99th percentile for blocks, 98th for pressures, 98th percentile for interceptions, 96th percentile for clearances. And this is compared to all of his positional peers over the last year. Now, it's important to note, this isn't just in Italy, which obviously has a more defensive structure. A lot of people think to it. This is compared to all centre-backs in Europe's top 5 leagues. He's also a threat from set pieces. He's found the net 13 occasions in his 110 games for Torino. And I think really this is a top player who's going places. But, and there are a couple of buts involved in this deal. Firstly, Italian media have reported Bremer has actually promised himself to Inter Milan. However, some believe, there's a lot of howevers this week. However, some believe this is based on Bestoni leaving, which obviously is now looking less likely. Perhaps the bigger issue, however, here is that Bremer, who is Brazilian born, is just a few months away from becoming an Italian citizen. And much like Jorginho, who he plays for Chelsea, he's Brazilian born, but he plays for Italy. It would allow him the chance to play for the Italian national team. So no international caps for Brazil. And as you've seen, if you'd watched the friendly with England on Saturday, Italy are crying out for centre-backs following the retirement of Chiellini and the impending retirement of Bonucci. So a massive opportunity for Bremer there if he stays in Italy. This obviously all makes quite frustrating news for Tottenham and indeed us Tottenham fans. But don't forget, we do still have the greatest left-sided defender in the world in Ben Davies. So nothing to fear. Now, obviously, we covered Japhet Tanganga as possible and another centre-back who was rumoured to be looking for a way out of Spurs this week was Welsh defender Joe Rodon. However, this appeared to be shot down very quickly in what is probably my favourite tweet of the week by Rodon's brother Sam. Despite this tweet, we do understand there are a number of Premier League clubs interested in Rodon and that he is a player Spurs could look to move either on loan or even on a permanent deal, depending on incomings. Rodon has expressed his desire to get game time ahead of a World Cup. As we saw, he will be featuring quite strongly, it appears, for Wales. Well, I'm not sure that I've ever talked about centre-backs so much, but now it's time to move on to our weekly feature of Seb's Honest Insider Transfer of Exclusive. I was going to say of the week, Seb's Honest Insider Transfer Exclusive. Now, we had a lot of feedback last week. I enjoyed it immensely, actually, when we broke our story about Roberto Firmino. But we stand by our assertion that Seb's Honest Insider Transfer Exclusive is exactly that. And this week, we can reveal Tottenham's interest in an attacking right back, none other than Dodo. Not that Dodo, but this Dodo, a 23-year-old Brazilian who's been plying his trade with Ukrainian team Shakhtar Donetsk. Now, this is quite an interesting story. We can reveal, actually, that following the tragic outbreak of war in Ukraine, Spurs actually considered taking Dodo last season following Matt Doherty's injury. You may remember there was a FIFA embargo that allowed Ukrainian clubs, and I think some Russian clubs as well, to transfer players out so that they could get game time, obviously, when their leagues were suspended. But Tottenham actually at the time considered the move too controversial. However, Spurs are considering another move this summer and face competition from Real Madrid and Barcelona. The latter have been recommended the player by none other than Dani Alves, who considers him the heir to his own crown as Brazil and Barcelona's mainstay as an attacking fullback. One wonders quite what this means, obviously, for Emerson Royale at both club and international level. Now, cheeseheads, we move on to some possible incomings, and we start with an update of the story that we covered last week, and that is the possible arrival of Christian Eriksen. As has been covered by many media outlets, Tottenham were in attendance in Austria this week as Eriksen's Denmark played Austria in the Nations League. Now, we'll come on to who they possibly were covering later. However, what was interesting about this was not actually that Spurs were at the game. It was the comments made by Spurs' own Pierre-Emile Højbjerg that may seem a Tottenham homecoming for Eriksen seem even more likely. I'm just going to read out some quotes here. So Højbjerg told Danish newspaper Bold, "Yes, the coach, Antonio Conte, has asked me how he is. When we came back after being together last time, he asked me how he was doing. Asked then if he could see Eriksen back at Tottenham, Højbjerg said, of course I can. Then there is the question of whether he himself can, but of course I can see that Christian can contribute something on that team." Then he also added, "Many of my teammates in the club also have a lot to do with him, and we talk about him occasionally. Some of them even talk to him once in a while. He made a fantastic impression there as a player and as a person." And that is correct. From 2013 to 2020, as we know, Christian Eriksen played 305 matches for Tottenham with 69 goals and 90 assists as a result. As we know, his short-term contract is up at Brentford. He is actually being put on their release list. And apparently Eriksen will make his decision over a number of offers from Premier League clubs within the next couple of weeks. However, my understanding is that Tottenham are at the front of the queue, and I would expect to see some serious news about Christian Eriksen within the next 10 to 14 days. Okay, now on to our search for a striker. And aside from that last minute news from Richarlison, 3 more names that have been mentioned this week. First up is the aforementioned Gabriel Jesus, who has been made available by Manchester City. As we know, according to transfer guru Fabrizio Romano, Jesus wants assurances of being the main striker and also prefers to stay in the Premier League. His listed suitors are Real Madrid, Spurs and Arsenal. But if you consider that the first two have Karim Benzema and Harry Kane in their ranks, this left Arsenal as the team most likely to fulfil his playing desires. And that is likely where he will be headed within the next couple of weeks. What a good job that one of his desires wasn't to play Champions League football. A much more realistic signing could be Austrian striker Sasas Kalajdzic. And my understanding is that the game that Tottenham scouts went to Austria against Denmark, they were keeping a very close eye on Kalajdzic. The Stuttgart striker has been attracting interest for a few seasons, both from Tottenham and around Europe. But it's actually Stuttgart and Nachrichten, local newspaper in Stuttgart where he plays, that state Stuttgart are seeking a deal of around 25 million euros or around 21 million pounds. And that Tottenham have gone to the front of the queue, pushing ahead of Borussia Dortmund and Inter Milan. Now, Kalajdzic, he's only 24 and he has 1 year left on his Stuttgart deal. This is going to be a common theme, I think, over the next few weeks. Players who have gone into that final year are much more attractive to a buying club. And we know that Paratici has his finger on the pulse of all these contracts, all players around Europe. He knows when players' contracts are looking to expire. Paratici is a big fan. He's been keeping a close eye on the forward, who is 6'7" tall and has been likened to former Tottenham striker Peter Crouch. Kalajdzic has had a major injury, which he's returned from this season. He scored 6 goals in 15 games to help Stuttgart narrowly avoid relegation from the Bundesliga. In my opinion, this is a far more Tottenham-esque signing. And despite the fact that Spurs appear to be willing to spend decent amount of money this summer, perhaps it looks likely on Richarlison, another young striker who could offer something very, very different to what Spurs currently have, either with Kane or these players that can play across the front line, could be just what Tottenham need. The final striker linked with Spurs this week is also the winner of our rubbish rumour of the week award, and that is Marcus Rashford. Now, this week, Caught Offside ran an exclusive interview with Italian super agent Roberto Di Fanti. Yes, I know. Di Fanti told the online publication, it seems there have been some discussions very recently between the players' camp and Tottenham Hotspur. The London club feel negotiating a deal for Rashford is virtually impossible, though, so that transfer no longer seems an option. Yet another story of a transfer that was never going to happen and it never will happen. Di Fanti is not even Rashford's agent, and he only has a minor link to Spurs as his agency looks after the aforementioned Japhet Tanganga. So this really is a nothing story, but it does show how these things can run and make mainstream media if enough people get behind it. Finally, folks, and I think we will make this a weekly feature in itself as well, is our Tanguy Ndombele Where to Now section. This week, our Mercurial Frenchman has been linked with Lazio and Roma. This is a very strange story as well. I quote from the media outlet Radio, who say, we received a message around 1:30 a.m. from a London source who informed us of the interest of Rome and Lazio in the midfielder. We then crossed paths and certainly found confirmations on the Bianco Celesti, while we are working on the Giallo Rossi. Obviously, Bianco Celesti, Lazio, Giallo Rossi, Roma. Mourinho wants a powerful player, and he is the ideal figure. He would come in on loan. Indeed, it does seem that a loan is the most likely option for the Frenchman, who, if he joins Roma, can reunite with Jose Mourinho and run laps of the Colosseum instead of Barnet Common. What a life. So, cheeseheads, it's been brief, but that concludes this week's transfer talk. As ever, please hit the like and share button to subscribe to this channel. Keep an eye out for all this week's shows with Caller, John, Becky, HG, and all of that fantastic YouTube team. And if you haven't done so already, please also subscribe to your podcast provider so you can listen to all our podcasts throughout the summer and beyond. In addition, as you may have seen in the ticker running below, you can also subscribe to our Patreon, where for a small monthly fee, you get exclusive access to a lot more content, as well as competitions, chat, and further discounts with our partners' football prizes. As always, I would like to thank John and JP. Really big thanks to them for their help in producing the show this week. Thanks to all of you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And until next week, come on, you Spurs!